Hey Ubaid, how you doing? This is Mike, and I wanted to talk about the images that you submitted. So we have the image that you submitted here along with your reference image, and I just want to talk to you about the approach a little bit before I get into some specifics because we need to kind of restructure the way that the lighting is going on this. So the two biggest things is that I know that you wanted to focus on this is like a color palette reference, and then the other thing was this dog here. We really wanted to focus in on that as the main focal point of this shot. So right in here. So one of the things when I first looked at the image was that I didn't see the dog. Like I was looking around and I kind of, my eye, like if I squint at it, my eye was drawn. Like I first kind of saw this light, then I saw this sliver of light down here because it's very thin and very like contrasting and bright versus the dark. I also kind of focused back here because this light is a little bit bright. And I didn't actually get to the dog until I started kind of looking around the image a little bit. So I would say we need to structure the shot in a way that really gets the focus there. So how do we do that? There's a couple different things that we can do. Number one is we have some opportunities here. We have this lamp and we have this doorway open. And so we really want to create like a pool of light right in here to allow the viewer to focus on the dog. Now, what do they see when they get there? The dog should either be layered in a way where he's brighter than his surroundings or darker than something that's bright over the background here. Like maybe this light brightens up the wall back here and the dog is just rimmed up but he's a dark shape over a light background. We have some options. If it were me, what I would do is I would tone down all the stuff over here in this part of the image and just make it kind of secondary. You can have things like the light on inside this window if we want, but the thing is that we don't want it to overpower this. We want it to be secondary. So we want whatever the brightest thing is to be like number one here, and then anything else over here, like maybe this is the second focal point and third focal point. So we don't want to, whatever we do, we don't want to draw anything away from this region. So everything that we do in this shot, everything that we structure is about getting the audience's eye into that region. And then when they get there, then we can work on the payoff a little bit. So the other big thing that I want to talk about is the color of this shot, because overall you've got several different colored lights kind of all happening at once, and that's totally fine. The one thing that's working really well on this one is there's two main tones. There's kind of like this bluish purple cool and then this red pop. So because again, if I squint at this one, I focus on two things. I focus on one, this lamp, and two, this car back there. And if I really want to get zeroed in on stuff, I think that this type of in terms of a reference strategy, I think that something like this could be really nice, like a warm pop on a cool background. So what I'm thinking is I like this color palette, and you've got a slightly different one. And if you want to change it up, that's totally fine. Yours, like if you look at the walls here, are more purple than here, which are more blue. But I think we can use this kind of like cool surrounding all around the dog. So this is like a bunch of cool tones that kind of evaluate up in there, and then just allow warm light to be spilling out of this region, so that everything bounces and pulls forward from the blue background. And then what we can do again is use this light as a reason, because it's really hard when the character is very small on screen. Use that light as a reason to hit him with a really hard rim light that allows us to pick up his shape, his form, so we can understand it's a dog in this space. Now, in terms of getting him to pop off of the background, what we can do, because he looks, it's hard to tell, but he looks a little bit brownish. He actually looks the same color as this barrel. And there's not much you can do like with a wood barrel. It's gonna be that color. So maybe I would consider doubling, like adding a second barrel right like in here. Just change this up real quick. I would add like a second barrel like right in here, and then so just to kind of, that's a little bit farther out, but like just to kind of get that whole shape behind them. And then I would just darken the barrels down a little bit, so they're the same tone but they're a little bit darker, than allowing that brighter rim to pull over top of it. All this other stuff is a good idea and it's a good structure. It's just, let's just tone it down. So like anything, again, anything over here and over here, anything in this region here. Let's just go ahead and tone it down. This is my best artwork I've ever created. If I just like leave this is the coolest drawing I've ever done. So everything over there, cool. And then actually let me structure this a little bit better. So we've got cool stuff here. And here, and then everything else just in the middle is warm. Also that I wanted to point out about this is to make sure that you're paying attention to the contrast levels when you're taking a look at your shot. So one thing, again, about these hazy shots is that we don't want the haze to be everywhere. We want the haze to help us get a feeling of depth. So just make sure that we're getting some darker elements in the foreground here, and then allowing the haze to build up as we get away from the camera, because we do have some room to get a little bit darker here in the foreground, and we do have some room to play with the brights. So like that's too much, but in terms of like the brights on the dog, like if we're just zeroed in here, we can push him to be about that bright, so his eyes really pop, his ears really pop. Just getting, like, I see that he's got this gold collar. We can maybe even hit that with a little shimmer of light, and really push that to the place where we can really get him to pop off. So I think there's a lot of potential here. I think it's a cool story that you're telling. I would just kind of restructure the lighting a little bit now that we have the focus on the dog and we know that the surrounding, we can kind of go from there. So if you have any questions, just post them below and I'll be happy to answer anything that you may come up with. So I look forward to seeing where you go with this, and happy lighting.